Yes, it's beautiful to be with each of you. Okay, so on Friday, we'll have our first retreat of the year. So I do hope you can join February 2nd through the 4th, 2024. And if any of you out there need a scholarship, send me an email. Send me an email soon, please, so I can get you the link and get you in there. And if you're planning on coming, also please sign up soon. You know, there's about 10% of the people lose the link and misplace it or goes their junk mail or something. So please sign up now, and we'll begin Friday morning. And often with retreats, you know, they often begin on Wednesday night, you know, during the Wednesday meditation. So if you can come Wednesday night, that's a great time to start. Okay. So tonight, I thought I'd speak about something kind of fun. You know, I often see these thumbnails. We all see these thumbnails on YouTube. And it's, you know, often like a young guy. I tried meditation for 30 days, and here's what happened. Now I tried trail running for 30 days, or I saw a new one. I tried jujitsu for 30 days, and here's what happened. And I'm not a YouTuber. Sometimes people call me a YouTuber. Like, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a spiritual teacher. So I'm going to change the rules here. Like often with YouTube, we do something that's like a little clickbait to get people interested. What I'm interested in is depth. I tried meditating every single day for 30 years. And here's what happened. 30 years, like 30 years is different than 30 days. 30 years is a big deal. Is a big deal. In fact, it's been more than 30 years, and I am rock solid and consistent. So I'm a lunatic about showing up every day for the path and for meditation. I believe in meditation. And so I'm not just going to try something for 30 days. You know, when I met my teacher, he said, you know, Craig, would you like to learn how to meditate? And I said, yeah, of course. And he said, okay, like bring a couple of your friends and come up on Sunday morning and let me teach you how. And I brought a couple friends, and over the years, I brought a couple more and this and that. And boy, out of all the friends I brought, only one of them stayed. He stayed for a while, you know, because he knew there was something good. But, you know, I was actually meditating since I was 15. And so I think I told my teacher this, but he was going to train me in the style that he was teaching. So anyways, I wrote down a couple things. I thought I'd just have a little bit of fun with this because, again, 30 years is a big deal. It's a big deal. And, you know, it's beyond 30 years. But anyways, so what has it taught me? It's taught me to be very comfortable in this body, in this mind, in this lifetime. In fact, if I wasn't a meditator, I most certainly would be a drinker. I'll say that. I'll say that because it's hard to be in the human body. It's hard to be in human form. It's very difficult. And just like that old country song goes, God is great. Like this is one of the things you learn from meditation. God is great. And then the country song says, beer is good and people are crazy. That's one of the things you learn in meditation, is how crazy everyone is, yourself included, myself included. And so, you know, God is good beer is great. And, what does that guy say? And beer is great, and I apologize to all the people in AA in the room. It's like we all need some way of coping with life. And for folks, some country Western folks, having a cold beer on a Friday night is their way of coping. Not always the best way of coping, but it's a way of coping. And so that's what meditation has taught me. It's taught me how to be in this world beyond coping, but how to live, how to experience life in a way that is remarkably sane. Sane. I can tell you meditation has kept me from going crazy, from losing my mind. Meditation has kept me from jumping off a bridge. Meditation has kept me from killing a man. It's like, wow, that sounds pretty serious, but it's true. It's like you live, you make it to 50 years old, and I'm sure there's going to be times in life when you've wanted to kill someone, when you've wanted to jump off a bridge, when you've wanted to strangle your mother, father, sister, brother, when you've wanted to run away. Like when I was a kid, I grew up in the Midwest, and like the only place like I could think about running away to as a kid was Florida, because it's like, God, I just want to go somewhere where there's an ocean and there's a big sky and it's warm. And so like my mind just went to running away. Like when you sit in meditation long enough, sometimes it's a daily thing. You'll notice your mind wants to run away, wants to run off into some fantasy land, wants to run here or there. It wants to go into some dream state. It wants to go to a place where we don't feel pain, where the weather's always 70 degrees. And that's not Florida, by the way. That's actually San Diego or Hawaii. But anyways, meditation has taught me to deal with the intensity of life, the intensity of it, the heartache of it, the despair of it. Meditation has helped me be comfortable with change. That's, one of the Buddha's definition of life is dukkha, life is suffering, life is constant change that you can't hold on to, you can't put it in a box. And our human egoic nature, it's always wanting to control life and put it in a box and make it fit a certain way. But being on this spiritual path, meditating every day, has taught me to go with the flow, to be comfortable with change, to be able to breathe when the world is falling apart. I was reflecting the other day, just on all these wars that are happening. And then I was, took a vaster view, and I began to realize, I think my whole life, there's always been some kind of war happening. And when you sit for a long period of time, like a great period of time, you see that human beings, like the country way of saying it, human beings are crazy. We're good Buddhists, we say human beings are on the wheel of samsara. Wheel of samsara. You hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. You attack my country, I'm going to attack yours. And this path of meditation, this path of of spirituality, it requires a commitment that we do something different. We respond to life in a different way than maybe how our own body wants to respond, our own emotional nature wants to respond. We do something different than how our culture, our family wants to respond. Meditation teaches us to be anchored. If you sit and you listen to your breath, you focus on your breath, you breathe in and out, it gives you a really good anchor. If you do this for 30 days or 30 years, or somewhere in between, it gives you a good anchor. And I think, there's all these studies that say, well, if you do something 3 days in a row, you can create a new habit. And I've heard other studies, you do things 7 days in a row. If you do things 27 days in a row, we start to develop this habit of being able to sit in a deep way, a profound way, and to be unmoved, unshakable. Even if we are shaking. And that's one of the things I'll say next is meditation has taught me how to sit with intense experiences, how to sit when I'm shaking, sit when I'm trembling, sit when I'm grieving, to be with grief, to be with sadness, to be with excitement, falling in love, to be with somebody stealing from you, breaking your heart or betraying you, and not killing them. I just say that with a smile. I just say that with a smile because human beings, so many of us are unwilling to admit this. But we all have a killer inside of us. We all have a violent one within us. And if you're thinking, oh, not me, I'm just a little peaceful little bunny, then I'll tell you, you haven't sat long enough. It took me a couple decades to discover, that there was a killer within me. In fact, I can remember I was really young, but when this song came out, but I heard it again the other day with Billy Corgan. If any of you know Billy Corgan from the 90s. And he had this song. This isn't the name of the song, but he's got this verse just like the killer in me is the killer in you. And it's one of these sweet songs, but also a tragic song too. And just listening to it, I have no idea what his meaning was or what he was singing about. But I just heard that just this thing is just like, yeah, it's like within the collective consciousness. When you meditate, we come in contact with the collective consciousness of all of life, of all of life. And when you sit with the collective consciousness of all of life, compassion arises. Because compassion, oftentimes we think of it as this real flowery thing, but another translation of compassion is understanding. Like we begin to understand that there is a program of human nature here. There's a program of human nature. And I can remember when I was young on the path and meditating, and sometimes I'd read Buddhist books, and Buddhist books, sometimes they can be a little bit dark or heavy or depressing when they talk about all the terrible things within us. It could be real similar to like if you read some Christian books and they talk about, what a sinner we all are. I didn't like reading these books because, it talked about all these terrible qualities of being human. And I was always like, gosh, I don't have any of these qualities. That's not me. That's not me. But when you live long enough, and when people betray you, they hurt you, or they hurt your family, or they steal from you, or you see people, like on the internet, you see these stories or hear these stories of people being kidnapped and sold into slavery and this and that. And like when you hear a story like that, you might have a thought of killing someone who steals children. You might have a thought of, killing someone who kidnaps your people or who bombs your apartment building. And one of the things that meditation teaches us when we sit long enough, I should mention, it shows us all the beautiful divine aspects of our being. Sometimes I forget to mention that. But it also shows us, that there's a wolf in each of us. There's a killer. I love it when people argue with this one, but then they eat meat. It's like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to you, but like sometimes it's just right there. It's just like, yeah. Like I support factory farming by eating at McDonald's or whatever. It's like when you meditate long enough, you start to see yourself honestly. And please, let's hear this. We see our vast, spacious nature, our non-dual nature. We see this immense love and light. You recognize that your consciousness is light, is love, is peace, is this immense, indestructible beauty. And so let's honor that. Let's honor that. You see that. I saw that right from the beginning. That was one of the great gifts. That's one of the things that kept me meditating is I could open to God and open to grace, open to my divine nature. Almost just like that. And that was such a gift. And then, of course, over 30 years, there were times when I couldn't open just like that. There were times when I just sat with a brick wall. I sat with hatred, self-hatred, or hatred of one of my fellow human beings. But the beautiful thing is when you sit long enough, you start to see that the light is greater than the darkness. You see that your essence, your primordial essence of peace, of love, spaciousness, of depth, that this thing that you are cannot be destroyed. No matter how dark it gets, no matter how sick you are. I've sat when I've had the flu and it's just like, what a terrible day. It's like when you sit and you open, you feel everything more. And so it's like, God, I was feeling sick and just laying down kind of sleepy. And I got up to meditate and it's like, oh, I feel worse. I feel worse. I feel worse. I feel worse. But as you continue to sit, when you have the flu or COVID or head injury or whatever it is, or a breakup or divorce, I've had this experience countless times where I've realized myself as bliss, as freedom, when I've had the worst day of my life. And boy, is that something remarkable, quite remarkable. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in meditation, or sometimes even just laid in meditation, like in Shavasana or Yoga Nidra, and been so utterly sick. So the body's not working in any way. And yet, through this practice of meditation, which is a practice of opening and opening and opening, despite the hell in the body, recognizing that my nature is bliss, that the nature of life is bliss. That the nature of humanity is love. And that's a funny thing because, there's been many times when I've sat down to meditate in a terrible mood, maybe hangry, maybe with a broken heart, maybe with my, being in a fight with one of my children or something, or my ex-wife, or whatever it is. And sitting and breathing and opening and breathing and opening, and then being lost in thought and breathing and opening, and then being lost in some argument, and then breathing and opening, and finding peace, and finding that this peace is what I want, and making that choice to discover that this peace is what I am, and further discovering that this peace pervades all of life. This peace is actually the very space in which bliss arises, or freedom arises, or a good day arises, or a bad day arises. This peace is the space in which tragedy arises, or, my best day ever. And when we start to realize this, then we have this choice to focus on the essence of our consciousness instead of the contents of our consciousness. The contents that come and go. That come and go. And that's one of the things you'll learn, after sitting for 30 years. A lot of things come and go. Everything comes and goes. Except this peace, except this space, except this space of I am. I am. And in an innocent recognition of the I am, now quote a different song, Modest Mouse. I'm the same as I was when I was, is it 6 years old? I think, I don't know. I'm the same as I was when I was 6 years old. There's this sense, this recognition through meditating all these years, that this innocence that was here when I was 6 years old was here when I was 16, and 26, and 36, and 46. I'm sure it'll be here when I'm 86. And sometimes, we discover through having a difficult life, painful life, or just any life, just any kind of life. Maybe it's just a busy life, that our innocence gets covered up. It gets covered up. And the process of meditation is us choosing every day to sit down or to lie down. You know, some of you need to lie down if you're having a difficult time with your body, but to sit down and to uncover, to unload all the heaviness of life, all the difficulty of life, all the busyness of life, all the projections of life. Whether you're projecting onto another or they're projecting on you, it's a time for us to be silent and put down our projections, put down our fights, put down our suffering. And plug into the hugeness of what we are. And as we plug into the hugeness of what we are, we start to feel lighter. And perhaps really empty. And perhaps really spacious. And perhaps really free. Really free. What else have I learned from 30 years of meditation? I've learned that all is God. All is God. When I first started meditating, I thought that when I sit down, I open to peace, that this is God. When I was with my teacher, I was like, my teacher is God. And he makes me feel like God. But after meditating for 30 years, I've also realized that Mara, or the devil, or a bad day, or sickness, or old age, an achy body, a sick kid, an aching back, a broken car, an empty bank account, creditors coming after you, that all this too is God. And all this too is God. Like all of life is God. That's really hard to see in the beginning. But after we've sat long enough, we begin to have this non-dual experience, this non-dual recognition, where we look out at life and we recognize good times are God, bad times are God. Birth is God, death is God. Floating down a river through a beautiful sandstone red rock canyon is God. The Milky Way galaxy is God. But also getting fired from a job, that this too is God. Your partner, your lover, leaving you as God. Your father dying is God. It's one of the things that happens when we sit down and we breathe and we open and we open and we open and we choose to no longer fight, no longer resist life. We begin to see that life is not just dukkha. That life is God. In fact, if dukkha, if another word for dukkha is just life is always changing. It's like, yeah, God is always changing. I was wearing a different kind of clothes, different mask, a different costume. When you sit long enough, you see that there's an intelligence that flows throughout life that's gently steering us one way, steering us away from something else and towards something much greater, if we're willing to listen. If we're willing to listen. Of course, after meditating this long, I've had countless spiritual experiences. And I don't want to bore anyone with those, but some of those experiences is that, like, I just said a moment ago, the recognition that all is God. The recognition, this one's like a little bit opposite, a different flavor, of everything just is as it is. That everything has absolute meaning, and simultaneously that everything is completely impersonal. And it's an interesting paradox. And we just start to discover that the truth is so paradoxical. Everything has meaning and nothing has meaning. Everything is significant and everything is insignificant. That everything exists right here, right now, in this moment. And that everything is being reborn in every moment. Everything is fresh and new in every moment. That's a really beautiful realization. It's a lovely realization. Everything is fresh and new. When you start to see this, you stop judging people so much. You stop putting them in a box. It becomes impossible to put them in a box. And simultaneously, you see, I love these paradoxes, that everyone can fit in all kinds of boxes. There's a certain way a Leo will act, a certain way a Cancer will act, a certain way that a Scorpio will act, a certain way a number 9 on the Enneagram will act, a number 3, and a 6, and a 5, and a 1, and an 8. And that's the funny thing, that when we meditate, we tend to see these patterns. Sometimes we see for a period of time that everyone is on the wheel of samsara. Sometimes we see I'm on the wheel of samsara. And sometimes we see that we are off the wheel and everyone else is still on the wheel. And that feels lonely. If we walk a little further, we see that everyone is actually awake. Yet most of them just don't know it. They just don't know it. That's been a fun realization for me, is that everyone's awake. They just don't know it. So everything that's ever existed exists right now. Then a real bizarre realization is that nothing exists. Everything is empty. Nothing ever happened. At one point, I spent some time in a realm where God did not exist. God does not exist. There's nothing exists. There's all kinds of realms of the void. It's all kinds of blissful realms, all kinds of compassionate realms, all kinds of angelic realms. And for me, the question was, what is permanent? What is permanent? What is here all the time? To me, that's been a very fascinating question, because it's easy to get lost in realization after realization after realization. And so we have to be careful about that with the path of meditation, the spiritual path. We can just chase and chase and chase. And I've been surprised how many people told me they've just chased forever. But often they don't stick around long enough to find anything deep. And that's one thing about meditation is if you do it every day, you do it for a significant period, you'll find something really deep. You'll find something really beautiful, even in the things you hate or thought you hated. You sit long enough, you will forgive countless individuals. If you sit long enough, you might forgive yourself. You might forgive yourself, and you might see how many ways you need to ask for forgiveness from others, how many ways you need to apologize. Because come on, being human, like if you sit in meditation, one thing that you'll know for sure is meditation is just a beautiful truth mirror. It will show you very clearly when you're lying, when you're deceiving, when you're cheating. And you'll know this because your heart will contract, your belly will contract. You know it because it'll feel like garbage when you lie to a friend. So the longer you meditate, the longer you sit, it becomes very, very difficult to lie because it feels like poison. It becomes very difficult to be angry. And it becomes very easy to grieve. In the beginning, I know that it's hard for me to really be in touch with my emotions. I tried to just out meditate them. But then I realized, part of meditation is opening fully to my emotions and feeling them and grieving them and experiencing them. And then I discovered these wonderful tantric doorways through grief or through rage or through sadness, through addiction, through heartache, through despair, through depression. In fact, through anything that we would normally avoid. Because when you meditate, there's almost like this silent commitment of, I'm not going to avoid. I'm not going to avoid. I cannot avoid any longer. So that's when we sit long enough, we discover some real nasty aspects of our psyche. Very nasty. And we realize, I need to meet these with love. I need to be compassionate towards these. I can't just hate them, or I can't just judge the judge or criticize the critic or hate the hatred. It just doesn't work. I can't out meditate anything. That's one of the things I discovered. It took me many years because I was pretty good at out meditating things in the beginning. At least I thought I was outrunning them. But they all caught up to me. I realized, and that's the beautiful thing with meditation is you sit and you're like, yeah, there's this thing within me. There's that guy. That guy is within me. And that guy needs some love. Needs some love. Needs some support. Because hating him, starving him, ignoring him, it just doesn't work. Doesn't work with those real persistent things. When you sit long enough, you realize that your consciousness is life itself. Is life itself. And out of this consciousness, all things are born. Are born. And so, thank you for allowing me to have a little bit of fun with that. my YouTube thumbnail, 30 days of meditation. How it changed me. How it changed me. Oh yeah, I could add one more thing. Yeah, I'll say one more thing. I watched the structure of my mind and consciousness change in so many crazy, wild ways. Or the very fabric of my brain, because there's a long period of time, it just felt like God's hands were inside my brain, just rewiring it and changing it, restructuring it, and continues to do so. Like I thought that was just a short period thing that went on for 5 years, but the more I live, I just see every year this consciousness is more spacious, more empty, more free, more forgiving, more kind, more loving. And there's a different type of mind in it where good and bad, I like and I don't like, pain and pleasure, where these things just continue to dissolve and dissolve and dissolve in a way that makes one radically different than most human beings. And there could be all those things that happen with kundalini and the 7 chakra centers and all this light in the body and the disappearance of one's memory and falling away the will and again all these countless spiritual experiences and that change the body, that change one's consciousness, that changes one, like what one knows oneself to be. And that we're probably not going to find in 30 days, the 30 day, what happened in 30 days of meditation. That's going to take some time for these bigger changes to take place. Oh yeah, I wrote one more thing. There's different ways to meditate. Like there's countless ways to meditate. There's countless postures of meditation. There were times when I was very ill, very, very sick, like on my deathbed sick. And I would, just meditate laying down. And for people get in the habit of laying down, you might find that something radically different happens when you sit up again, that your consciousness is much more alert and vibrant when you sit up and when you lay down. And you also might find that, it's important to learn how to meditate while walking. You like to meditate in action, just in your daily life. It's one of my favorite forms of meditation, is going on long walks and being the sky, being the earth. I'm actually quite proficient at meditation while driving. I live in a place in the country where I can drive across the desert and drive for 6 or 8 hours without hitting a stoplight, being no traffic. I mean, I've even driven for 12 hours without getting in any traffic before when I drive from here to San Diego. And so there's different ways to meditate, and there's different qualities that come forward if we practice with these. I was always just a guy who just sat and meditated. Then I started experimenting with yoga nidra and laying down meditation, shavasana. Sometimes I get a little too relaxed with that. And then walking meditation and meditation and yoga. And then, of course, eventually we want meditation all day long with the dishes, with the laundry, with being with you. And eventually it just becomes a way of life. Okay. I think I did it. All right. A couple questions were sent in. This is a fun one. Hi, Craig. What is the shadow side of listening to too much of Adya? I don't want to pick on Adya at all, so I don't want to go too much. But let's just say, what's the shadow side of listening to too much non-duality? Well, if it's a transcendent non-duality, then well, you're probably not going to have your feet on planet Earth. You're probably going to want to be a monk. You probably won't want to be here, and you just see the world as an illusion, and you might get stuck in that. The shadow side of Zen is that Zen doesn't have much heart in it. It tends to lack love. But what I would invite for the questioner to look at, and it's true with any question we ask, is what is our projection? Like, what is our projection in the question that we're asking? Like, what is our part? Because we could say, oh, the shadow side of being a student of Craig Holliday is, what is that shadow? That there's too much is online and we don't see enough each other in person. I can float in and float out. And I don't have to be, too deeply connected. I can just come here and come there. And the shadow side of any group that we are in is very much dependent upon what our shadow is. What our shadow is, what our projections are, what are we projecting on the teacher? And the beautiful thing is, I'll say this, is if you stay with any teaching long enough, every shadow will come out, of that teaching, and every shadow will be resolved if you stay long enough. And like for those of you in the Sangha who've been a part of a cult, if you stay in a cult long enough, the shadow will be brought to the surface. Your shadow, which got you there, the shadow of the teacher, it'll be brought up. And then eventually it will implode. And eventually you'll do your healing work and it'll be cleared and it'll be integrated. And that's the beautiful thing with life. That's the beautiful thing with life. Like I had so many projections that I would project onto my teacher. And when I sat with them long enough, they would be cleared. In fact, I know my teacher, I guess 30 years. I just saw him, a couple weeks ago, and it was funny. I had some more projections that were cleared. And, they were real innocent projections. It's just that, my teacher was going to live in some perfected state forever was my projection. And, I got to see my teacher very old, and, really, struggling to remain in his human form. He's getting near the end of his life, and so I had projections about that it would always be a certain way. And so, to get back to the question, what is the shadow side of listening to too much of, let's just say, some non-dual teacher is, like a lot of non-dual teachers, they don't have a life here on planet Earth. They don't have children, they don't have relationships, they're not engaged, or they don't talk about their life. Some people say I talk about my life too much. And, some people say the shadow of Craig Holliday, he focuses too much on healing. And, there's a little bit of a truth to that. I think it's something we need to do. It's hard to be awake if we're not healed, if we have great psychological wounds. But I always look at, how are you, the questioner, contributing to the shadow, to the projection, to the confusion? What is it you are doing? What are you doing? Okay. All right. Here's another question. Hi, Craig. I got a question. This is a funny one given what I just said about meditation. Hi, Craig. On mornings where I don't have time to meditate, I've been substituting a tea ceremony with fancy aged teas, and some of them feel rather lively, and they help me ease into spaciousness when I can let the tea chi flow. And it makes me kind of goofy when I don't let it flow. I want to truly show up at work, and so other tools and rituals for taking a moment and slowing down seem like they can be a very healthy practice if used correctly. Okay. My path has been rather shamanic in nature. I don't want to completely throw that aspect away if I'm drawn to it. Yeah, please, like, don't throw anything away that your heart is drawn to. Not your emotional heart, but your true heart. When your true heart is drawn to a shamanic path, follow that. I was curious about chi before, but this recent development has increased that. What is chi to you? Yeah. What is chi to me? Chi is the energy of life. It's in everything. This person also asked, is chi and kundalini the same? And from one perspective, yes. Yeah, it's the same. Same thing. It's just the energy of life. It's the radiance of life. It's what animates life. And so in a non-dual sense, yeah, chi and kundalini are the same. Now, in a real specific way, there are some subtle differences in that chi, can flow, through all the different centers of your body, and it can flow in these different meridians and this and that. And kundalini, often the way I teach it is just the energy that flows up the spine, out the top of the head. But as you follow my teachings, I blend everything into each other. That's another shadow of my teachings. Like, what is the direct teaching? What is the vocabulary word answer here? The definition, rather. It's all God. It's all kundalini. It's all chi. And so, yes, yes. Can we make some subtle differences? Sure. Like an acupuncturist often can move chi around in my body, and that can be different than moving kundalini around in my body. And so I hope that makes some sense, but I don't think we need to get too much into the subtle differences of it. If you resonate with this tea ceremony as helping you to slow down, it's just another way of meditation and action. It's another way for you to be consciously awake. And so I encourage you to continue with it, learn from it, see. With any great Zen master, you sit down and you have tea with them, you'll see a whole world will be born just in that moment of pouring tea. A whole world. And this was often what it was like when I was with my teacher. Sometimes we would sit down together and break bread, and a whole world would give birth just in that moment. Okay. All right, let's hear from Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
Hello. Uh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good to see you.
Okay, good to see you. Yeah, I guess my question is about the feeling of distrust that comes up. It's kind of like a wall that makes you feel like all closed
Yeah.
down, and yeah, I feel like it's in front of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of, yeah.
Do those things have a theme?
Yeah, definitely.
What's the
Yeah.
theme?
Um, I think the theme is like, am I a good family member, like a good participant, or like am I a good, am I in right relationship? I think that's
Mhm.
what it is. It's like,
Yeah. So you're
yeah, am
having
I
a
in right
question.
relationship?
am I in right relationship? And then there's a feeling of mistrust toward the other or toward yourself.
Toward myself, most significantly.
Okay. Why don't you trust yourself?
Um, I guess like I just am afraid of like committing some fatal error that I like unbeknownst. I think it's like the fear of causing harm, which sounds silly, like once I say it out loud. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like I don't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah, yeah. None of us want to hurt anybody. Like we don't want to hurt anyone, but we will. Like we're going to. We're going to hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
We're going to hurt a lot of people in this world. And it's good for us to know this and really understand this and to get comfortable with it because it's very hard to be human and not hurt anyone. It's impossible. It's impossible. You know, I did this talk at the Science and Non-Duality conference a number of years ago, and they posted it on YouTube. You know, the Sand group, and people started commenting on the way I was speaking, just like the tone, the cadence of how I was speaking, and they were
Mhm.
talking about my out breath, and there was like this whole discussion online. I normally don't get into the comments, but I was just like, oh, let's see what everyone had to say about, my talk and just see what they thought. And there's these guys that were attacking my out breath. And I was like, my God, like this is how I upset you. This is how I caused harm. And they're going into places in their head, of Craig Holiday being a phony or whatever it was. And to me, it was just like hilarious. But there's been numerous times in my life here on planet Earth when I have done maybe like a big exhale and it has pissed people off. It has disturbed them. And so like we have to be careful. We have an idea like, I don't want to cause harm. Yeah, of course, like none of us want to cause harm. But sometimes people are waiting to be offended.
Mm.
Like they're just waiting to be offended. They're waiting to be harmed. They're projecting onto us. And so it's just the very fact that we exist, like from one perspective, it could seem that we're causing them harm, but in reality, they're just projecting on us. And the big thing, Catherine, like I know you have a good heart. You're a good human being. I would encourage you just to trust in that.
Mm.
Just to trust in this basic truth that you are a good human being. And then, like I was speaking before, like if you sit in meditation and you're like, I was kind of a jerk to my dad. Like I was a little bit harsh with him. And maybe he didn't deserve all that, attitude or tone or whatever it is you gave him. And then, maybe later you send him an email or a text like, hey, Dad, I'm sorry. I gave you such a hard time. And I've done this so many times just after, I'd be with someone, maybe I'd get a little carried away. I'd say the wrong thing and I'd sit for a while. And then later I'd send him an email or a text, be like, hey, I apologize. I was a jerk, or I spoke too much, and I think if we can find a humble place within us where we can be very comfortable apologizing, there's this funny thing that happens is when you get comfortable like with being a human and making a mistake and then being able to just like very quickly apologize for it, there's something that happens in regards to trust. You start to trust yourself more fully, and you actually trust that other human being, that they're going to be okay. You trust that you're going to be okay, and you trust that they're going to be okay. But sometimes we can't trust that we're going to be okay until we go and we show up and we say the wrong thing. We put our foot in our mouth. We're a hot mess. We project all over everyone. And then they blame us. We get in a big fight. And then maybe 6 months goes by and we forgive them and they forgive us. And then we realize, oh yeah, we all do this. And we live long enough, and then they do that same thing to us. And, after a while, we begin to realize, we all get confused, and we all get a little angry, and we all get a little hangry sometimes, and we all get sad, and we all project, and it's okay. And it's okay. Like, it's okay to be human. It's okay to be human. It's okay.
I think I'm experiencing like the reflection of this then, because I've been over apologizing because I don't trust that other people could love me like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, then I'm going to flip that on yourself. So, can you look at the parts of you that you feel are less than?
Mhm.
And you see that she is worthy of love too.
Yeah.
That she is worthy of love too. That she's beautiful and she's good and she's innocent. And sometimes she says the wrong thing and gets a little confused and has emotions, and that's okay. In fact, it's like a sign that she's needing more support, more love. If she's feeling like she needs to apologize for her existence, it's like, let's give her more love. Let's give her more love. Yeah. Yeah. Because she's feeling isolated and alone, and she's feeling like she's out in the cold. And instead of like waiting for the other people on the outside to come around and love her, how about we love her right now? Or how about we love
Yeah.
her right now? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I've been working
Yeah.
at. Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's just kind of like accepting that sometimes, even though you're working at, you still get like inundated.
Yeah.
Like it's just a
Yeah.
big wave.
Yeah. And life doesn't stop. Like, life doesn't stop. Like, people are always going to be giving us feedback about ourselves and telling us we're doing it wrong. And if we have a strong critic, there's going to be that. But to me, it's like, if we have a strong critic, or if we have parts of us that don't feel connected to love, that's a great thing for us to really focus in on and meet with love. And that's like one of the things I could have said earlier about 30 years of meditation. It shows all your wounds, all your shadows, all your shortcomings, all the parts of you that feel less than, they all come into the light. And if we see that they're not wrong, but rather if we see, oh, these are aspects of myself that are wanting love, that are needing love, well, how about I give them that? Like, how about I love what's here?
Yeah.
And the more you love what's here, it's funny, you just start to feel more and more okay. More and more okay. Even if you're not like got it all together and all polished and this and that, you're just like, I think I'm all right. I think I'm all right. And I think they're all right. And it makes everything easier. Everything easier the more fully you love yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think my question just came from impatience most than anything.
Yeah. Well, and then like looking at that part, like like impatience can be a fun doorway, because if we really work with impatience, we can try to, okay, I'm just going to try to be patient. Or like another way of working with impatience is jump into the deep end of the pool and really opening up and looking at all the parts of ourselves, again, that we've deemed, or that society or the world has deemed as less than, and saying, I will wholeheartedly love this. And so you take this impatience and we work with it tantrically. And we use it as a way to really open and say, I want to love it all. I'm going to love it all. Fully and completely. Fully and completely. I'm going to make sure there is no stone within me that's unturned. Yeah. Yeah. Well, beautiful, my dear. Well, so good to be with you. Anything else you want to share?
Well, I guess it's just kind of like I've had this phrase that's been like stuck in my mind whenever I get into a tough spot. And it's just like, um, rest, beloved, I am here. And I think it's pointing to what you were saying. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm here. Like, God is here right now, too,
Yeah.
like right there. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's starting to make more sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Say it again. Rest, beloved.
Re Rest, beloved, I am here.
Yeah. What's that from?
I don't know, it just started saying itself over and over in my head.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like, something from the Bible or something. Rest, beloved, I am here. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah.
It's helping me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. Well, good. Well, so good to
Thank
be with
you.
you, Catherine. Yeah. Much love. All right. And I love it, Catherine. I love the colors, the purple, the pink, and then looks like it's tied in with your glasses almost, Yeah. So your glasses got like a purple tint to them. So okay. Someone wrote a question in the chat. Craig, can you talk more about the distinction between the emotional heart and the true heart? Yeah. Yeah. Well, if we all feel into our emotional heart, normally we're going to be feeling into the surface of our chest. There's that old saying, like I wear my emotions on my sleeve. It's just like they're right here. So emotions tend to be on the surface, and that's what most people know as their heart. They're just like, how am I feeling? Feeling terrible. That's how my heart is. My heart is terrible. I feel terrible. I had a terrible day, and that's the emotional nature. It's shallow. It's not so deep. It doesn't mean that the hurt isn't deep, but it's just like it's on the surface. So the things that happen in our normal human life. So emotions, of course, are just those human feelings of happiness, sadness, excitement, jealousy, envy, rage, anxiety. These types of things could be on the surface of our heart. Rage is normally a little deeper down the belly, but it'll come up to the surface of our heart sometimes. And so, the emotional heart center is how we're feeling just in a human way, like an emotional way, a psychological way. The true heart is our essence. And in our essence, if any of us just feel right now, we go journey inward, not on the surface, but you can feel on the surface and see if there's any emotion there. But then if you feel under that and feel back toward your spine, like this inner cave of the heart, you may notice this deep stillness, a quiet love, an eternal radiance. And this is what the true heart is. The true heart is your true nature. It tends to have a quality of love, bliss, radiance, light. Again, on the surface of your heart, you may feel despair. You may feel like, oh my God, I feel terrible. But if you journey inward, it might be, oh, there is something so deep here, so profound, so innocent and pure. And of course, on the spiritual path, we want to, we want to connect with our deep heart. And when we rest in the deep heart, like Catherine was saying, like that word rest, like we rest here in the depth of our being, it gives us this energy to love our human self, to support it, to help it to heal or integrate or grow up or forgive or let go or release. And so often people misinterpret my teachings when I say, okay, well, you need to love yourself. They go into their psychological nature and they try to get one part of their psychology to love another part of their psychology. That's all the emotional heart. Like that's the emotional heart trying to do and fix and this and that. When you come into the depth of your being, love spontaneously arises. You don't have to do anything. Love just becomes manifest. Just becomes manifest. So Matthew, I see you raised your hand. If you meditate too much, you might become dyslexic and not know how to speak. Okay. Y'all just have to forgive me. Okay, Matthew, I'm going to call on you, and then Johan, we'll see if I can get to you. Okay, Matthew, are you here?
Yeah, thanks so much for talking about that.
Was that helpful? I saw you raise your hand. Is there more to the question or something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on one thing. Get this straightened out here. When I feel into the depth, like all the way, like all the way at this depth you were leading us to, I still feel so much pain there. And I'm having trouble connecting to enough radiance and love to love all the pain, because the pain, it seems like it, to my awareness, it seems like it's going all the way in.
Yeah, that can happen. Like the pain could be really deep in our heart. That's true. So it might be helpful to feel into your belly to help that balance out.
Right.
Help balance it out. But let's see. Let's ask. Why don't we ask? What's the pain about?
It's just hurt.
So is it the
scared.
emotional heart is just hurting?
Yeah, it's like, I think there's like fear on the emotional heart.
Okay, yeah. So if there's fear there, yeah, that's going to tie down into the belly. So what's the fear about? I'm afraid of
mom and dad.
I'm afraid of mom and dad?
Yeah.
What's mom and dad going to do?
That's just what it said. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's feel into it. I'm afraid, and I want you to like really feel into it. I'm afraid mom and dad are
going to hurt me.
They're going to hurt me. Yeah. And like as a kid, most of us were hurt by mom and dad. Were you hurt by mom and dad? Yeah. Were you hurt in a big way by mom and dad? Yeah. So basically that part of your emotional heart is telling you like, hey, I need someone to come here and love this and also contain this. Like hold me, nurture me, love me.
Yeah.
And so that fear is telling you like, hey, I need you. Like I need to be connected with the depth of you.
Yes, and I go into this depth and there's just so much pain there. So it's like I'm finding it hard to find a place to love the pain from, because the pain just seems, I can't find a place where pain is not.
Yeah, I can't find a place where pain is not. Well, that's a good question. Like, is love dependent upon pain being absent?
No.
Yeah, so we love the pain. We love despite the pain. We love in the company of pain. In the environment of pain. We love in the environment of pain. And that's a beautiful thing, because again, like that's Hara energy, is I'm going to love in the environment of pain. I'm going to love in the context of hell. I'm going to love in the context of feeling not safe.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that becomes the invitation, is can you love within this context? And can we let go of any idea that pain needs to be absent to first find love? Like sometimes love is just the willingness to be with something.
Yeah.
I said this to my little girl the other day. You know, we were talking about love and what love meant. And I said, you know, sweetheart, like sometimes love is just like the willingness to be with something really hard. And she just kind of looked at me, you know, she's 9. She's just like, huh? Because, you know, she thinks of love as, you know, mom giving her a hug or dad giving her a hug. Like I just was putting her to bed and she like jumped and wrapped her legs around me. She's like, I love you so much, Daddy. And I'm like, I love you, sweetie, so much. But oh yeah, I remember what it was. We were having a hard time with her doing homework. Like she just like doesn't want to do school. And she was feeling frustrated. And I was having to explain to her, like, sweetie, I love you so much. Like, love is your dad just being here with you and making you do your damn spelling words. You know, it's just like, we're going to sit here and we're going to do it. And I'm going to hold you here because I love you. And we're going to do this together. We're going to try to make it fun. But if it's not fun, we're going to do it anyways, because, you know, I want you to succeed. And I believe in you. And I believe in your mind, you know, even though my little girl's got some pretty bad dyslexia, like her dad. And it's just like, I'm just going to be here with you in this difficulty.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do math. We're going to do rounding. She's really having a really hard time understanding rounding. She started to get really mad at me and wanting to push me away. It's like, hey, this is love. Like love is sitting here in this difficult place. And we're going to do our best not to get frustrated. We're just going to keep showing up, keep opening, invite opening.
Yeah.
In this pain. And sometimes like it's funny on the path of meditation is, yeah, I could have said this earlier. Sometimes you sit and you open and it hurts. And then you open more and it hurts more. And you're like, no, I thought if I open more, it would release. And then you open even more and it hurts even more. And you're like, damn, this is hard. And you open even more and it hurts even more. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then you open again, and then finally it releases. And finally it releases. And so, Matthew, that's going to be the game, is we open, we open, we open. And sometimes like I would call on God, like if you're egoic nature, even like if your spiritual nature is like, this is too much, I can't handle this. And so then we say, God, will you come into me and give me the strength?
Yeah.
Will you hold me, Lord? And it's good for you to, you know, just like a little bit of inner child work is, your inner child needs to start unplugging from mom and dad and plug into the adult Matthew, but also the adult, the divine mother, the divine father.
Yeah.
And so that at some point there has to be kind of that conscious, you know, unplugging from mom and dad. And sometimes there's a grieving that just has to happen. They're like, mom and dad hurt me. Sometimes it's mom and dad hurt me, but I think that they shouldn't hurt me. And I need them to love me now. And I need them to see me now. And I need them to hold me now. But sometimes they're not going to do that for us.
Yeah, and I'm at home visiting briefly too, so I think that's why a lot of this stuff might be coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really deep. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. Like when we're at home and these voices show up, but it's important to say, okay, I need to unplug from mom and dad as the savior and plug into your true nature as a savior and plug into God as a savior. But once you do that, you have to be, Matthew, rock solid. Because the mistake a lot of people make is we unplug from mom and dad, we unplug from their egos, and we plug into our ego, and our ego just fails and fails and fails. And then that little kid's like, I can't trust anyone. I can't trust you. I can't trust them. And it's
Yep,
like,
yep.
no. Like we have to be, and this is part of spiritual maturity. Because at some point we just have to be the adult, be like, I'm showing up and loving myself. And this is like what I was communicating with Catherine, is like this thing of just choosing. I'm going to jump to the deep end of the pool. I'm going to be the adult. I'm going to give myself the love that I never got.
Yeah. I'm just not that adult yet.
Well, so that's something you really should look at and
Yeah.
say, like, if you identify as not the adult,
Yeah.
that kid's going to scream at you for
Yeah.
a long time. In fact, that kid
Yeah.
is waiting for you to look inside and realize,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there is an adult in here.
I can
There
pull it off
is.
for like a period, and then I'm just like not at it again, and I just like drop the kid again. I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck, let's go do this. I can't do this, you know?
Yeah. And see, there comes this maturing on the path where we say, oh no, I'm not going to play that game anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play that game because that game, it doesn't work. And the problem
Right.
with this path, it's like, we're either going to do it now or we're going to do it later. And all the truth, like everything we've ever needed, is within us. But part of our ego, like, and this might be like our teenage ego, or maybe like pre-adolescent ego, like we might have the inner child, and the pre-adolescent one might be like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And at some point, like, it can be helpful for us, to do a deep dive and listen to someone like Jocko Willink or David Goggins, who's just like, it's just like, I can, I will, I do.
Yeah.
I do it always consistently.
Yeah.
And we develop this discipline, because otherwise we're just going to be kind of like a blown open spiritual mess, and that'll just
Yeah.
continue on and on and on. And
Yeah.
normally, like, the side effects of that is we tend to be broke, we tend not to be able to have a job, we
Yeah.
tend not to be able to function. And after a while, it's just like, damn, I do just need to pick myself up by my bootstraps.
Yeah.
I do just need to get to work. I do just need to show up for myself. And it's just me and me. And that's one of the things, this is another good thing I wish I said during the 30 years of meditation. I learned it's just me and me. Ain't nobody gonna come save me. It's
Yeah.
just me and me.
That's one I
know?
keep.
And
Yeah.
and it's hard. It's hard because I was the same way. It's like I was a hot mess, and I was a hot mess for a while. And I kept saying, like, oh, someone save me, like this. And then I realized, ain't nobody coming. It's just like,
Yeah.
and that's one of the hard truths. It's one of the hard truths. But like that thing from the Bible, God helps those who help themselves. It's like sometimes when we make that one step towards God, we realize, oh, God makes 10 steps for us. And if we do it like in a real non-dual sense, God, you do this in me, through me, as me. But normally to kickstart that, like, we have to make the step. We have to make the step. And there's a lot of people, like, sometimes I get people just email me again and again and again. They're like, Craig, I only want to do what I love, and I only want to do what feels best, and I only want to do what's the highest vibrational frequency, and I want to be a millionaire. And I'm just like, hey man, go get a job. Like, and I'm broke and I don't have $1. It's like, go get a job. Like, go get a job. Go get a job and let God start building that foundation in you. But you got to show up. If we don't show up, it's like that ball normally doesn't start moving.
Right.
And at some point we realize, like for me, it was, I just got tired of being broke. And also I got tired of listening to myself complain. And I got tired of waiting and no one came.
Yeah.
A lot of people came for a little bit.
Yeah, they come, but then it's like, no, that's
Yeah,
not
they
it.
came for a little bit and then they disappeared. And it's just like, and there's this quiet truth that it's all on us. Now there's a different truth that none of it's on us, but I don't want to talk about that now. It's all on us. That's the thing that we need to hear sometimes. And a lot of spiritual people, or a lot of people get stuck in kind of a victim place. They don't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it, when I was going through it. But eventually I realized I need to hear this.
Yeah.
Like, I need to hear this because, ain't nothing working.
Yeah.
So anyways, you feel into that and just see if there's something in you where, you can kind of hold on to this as a deep commitment.
Yeah.
And this is just like primal act of love from you to you.
Yeah.
And, this is what the spiritual path is about, is it puts pressure on places within us that we have some level of deficiency in. And again, I had this exact same thing.
Yeah.
And it was actually very conducive to spiritual awakening in the beginning, of just laying down, surrendering, all is God's will, just opening. But eventually I had to realize,
Yeah, I'm good at that part too.
yeah, it's like this great quality. It's a lot of people don't have that. But then the opposite is true too, is that we have, to make the steps.
Yeah.
We have to make the steps. And so one of my favorite short YouTube videos is Good. And so just what it's called, Good. If you just Google Jocko Good, and it's there's 3 different versions of it, but he'll do a good job of getting you inspired, for that part of us that needs to act. So anyways, good to be with you, Matthew. Much love.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Yeah. Okay, I think we did it. So please sign up for the retreat this weekend. I got a little carried away talking about the other retreat in April, but let's all meet this weekend. I'd love to see you there. I'd love to see you Wednesday night. And let's do this before we're done. Let us close our eyes and open our hearts more fully. And inviting this grace to flow more fully into our consciousness. Opening our hearts. Strengthening our resolve. Connecting us to our power, to our majesty, to our beauty. So that we may go forward shining our light in this beautiful world. Good night, everyone. So much love.